So, this story is extremely odd. Funny story though. Before we get to talk about this one, so I read the title of this article to my superior at work, and he let out a noise that was unreal, that caused some of my coworkers to be a little bit confused and concerned, and they were a little bit worried about his well-being. So the title of the article is Rumor: Sega Partnering with Google on Next Gen Console. So we have, if you're watching the video of this, you see Google's logo up, and apparently they're working with Sega. So, is this actually happening? Well, it's just a rumor. So, honestly, I don't know. But we'll see who's talking about this and why this rumor even came up. So, if you didn't hear us talking about the Google Game Console controller, the Google Game Controller that's, Google's releasing, if you didn't hear us talk about it, you definitely heard somebody talk about it. So if it wasn't me, you've heard it somewhere. So apparently, yes, Google is releasing a game controller. But even though Google is releasing one, I didn't really think that it was really going to be a thing. The game controller, yes, but not an actual game console. But apparently, according to this article, they will most likely properly talk about this, the game, controller, at the 2019 Game Developers Conference on March 18th. So by the time this video is out, it is not March 18th yet, although we might cover this next week on Matt Rants if we need to. So, but apparently, right, so we know that patents are out for a game controller, and we've seen those. And so we also know that there's a good chance that it'll be talked about March 18th at the Game Developers Conference. Why would it not be? But there are rumors that they will also be unveiling a Google console, and they will be partnering with Sega to produce games for the device and streaming service. That confuses me. Now, this rumor is coming from the YouTube channel Spawnwave. I've talked about Spawnwave before. I really enjoy his work. I've actually, if you go over to our Those Guys Play channel, you can see I did a show called "Did I Get What I Ordered?" And it's kind of inspired by something that he does on his channel. I talked about it in the video itself. So I definitely enjoy Spawnwave. By the way, hosted by Jonathan Downey. So I just don't know him, so I just want to call him Spawnwave. I feel weird being like Jonathan. But the thing is that I'm not saying he's not trustworthy, but it's just one of those situations where he's talking about this and saying that he has inside sources, which it's not. It's one of those things where some people are like, oh, so his dad works at Nintendo. Well, no, his dad would work at Google, but it's more so, and his mommy works at Sega. But it's not of that, right? It's not that that's what it is. The issue is that, people sometimes talk about, oh, well, you can't, you can't have these leaks and not talk about who the whistleblower is. You have to name them and point at them. It's like, well, if you do that, then they'll get fired. You'll never get any type of intel again, and you will potentially be blacklisted from really anyone who would potentially want to tell you any information. Like, you would just be completely. And what would you get out of it? You get a little bit of a bump in your YouTube views or whatever platform you're on. You'd get a bump in your views by pointing out who that whistleblower is by name. But then again, after that, it would just be nothing. It would be a quick high to get some cash, but it wouldn't actually help you long term. And also, if you call that person out, they could easily just say to you, no, I didn't do that. And then it never really goes anywhere, and now your integrity is called into question. So I have no problem with him not providing the source, but of course that's why you have to take this with, the article says massive grain of salt. Don't even think of it as a grain. Think of it as the Dead Sea. That amount of salt. Like, just don't think of it as like a teensy tiny little grain or even a massive grain. It sounds like jumbo shrimp. No, don't. Just take it with the largest amount of salt you can possibly have there, because I'm not saying he's not trustworthy. It's just that you've had situations happen like this before where some people have talked about being trying to oh god, it's not Mark Sellers, is it? Is that who I'm thinking of? If it's not Mark Sellers, I'm sorry, dude. But there was someone who was leaking information about different types of games, and throughout the years, some of his predictions have been accurate, some of them have not been. So, and I don't know if it was Sellers. I'm sorry if it wasn't. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but every year it would be some new crazy leak, and then it just wouldn't happen. So, at this point, I'm not saying that Spawnwave is being duped by a Sellers, or specifically Sellers himself, because, again, I don't know this guy. I'm hoping he has better judgment than that. And I don't think he's doing it just for the views, because this would put him, if this didn't happen, this would, I feel like it's even, the only thing that's short-sighted is that he even said it at all, because even if the source is 100% accurate, something could fall through, and through that fallout, he looks bad irregardless. So if I was in his position, I don't even think I would say it, even if I got that inside source. I would say it like a day before it was getting announced. So frankly, if he's saying this, I'm hoping that he's smart enough and that he's savvy enough to know, oh, this is getting talked about at that conference, at the, let me see here, at the Game Developers Conference. It's being talked about there. So if it's being talked about at the Game Developers Conference, he's releasing this, let's see when this exact article was. Well, yeah, the 10th. So a little over a week before. I assume that's why he'd be doing it, because God, if even if it was something happened and Google and Sega had to release this, or talk about this rather, a few months later, he would be getting hell for those few months. So I wish him the best with this, because I'm not saying I don't believe him. It's a huge gamble and a huge risk for him and his YouTube career to do it if something doesn't go right. And yeah, I just, again, it's not that I don't believe him. It's that more so I just don't believe that Google would get in on this at this point, because the Switch is doing so well. Microsoft isn't doing as hot, but they're definitely working on doing a lot better next gen from the looks of it. And when it comes to the PS4 has been doing well. Not sure what's going on with the PS5. Maybe PS5 won't do well, but even though Google is so large, I just feel like I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any other video game consoles out there, because I definitely love competition. I definitely think competition does shake things up. But I think with these top three, if you will, with Sony, with Microsoft, and with Nintendo, I don't know if there's room for another. And even though another thing too that's an issue is that Sonic, some of the recent games, not Mania, but some of the recent games, and I say recent when I think of, I'm like, oh, and Sonic 06. I'm like, wait, that wasn't recent. Oh God, how old am I? What year is it? But with many of Sonic's games over the last almost 15 years now, there's been problems. Again, not every Sonic game, of course, but there have been some issues. And even though I haven't played every one, I've heard from friends who have, things have been problematic depending on the game. So my point is that even though I think that Sonic can sell games, I don't know if he can sell a console. And I'm a little nervous about that. Now, could Sonic himself personally sell a console? Yes. I mean, I think he helped sell the Genesis pretty well. So I think that Sonic could sell consoles, but I think that with what has happened with certain Sonic games, I don't know if Sonic is still there at a console selling level. I think that, having games come out for different systems, those can sell well, especially if they're good like Sonic Mania. But I just don't know if Sonic can sell a system, unless they do like a Sonic Mania 2 or something like that, and it'll only be on Google's hardware. Maybe. But the issue is, are people really going to... Because look, I just recently got the Nintendo Switch. I don't really get new game consoles a lot. And that one, like I say new game consoles like right when they come out, where I got the PS4 maybe like 5 years into it, really. And when it came to the Switch, I've got it 2 years into it. Am I going to get a Google console that's going to be $500-$600? No, I'm not. That's the issue. Even if it had amazing games that were exclusive, you can't get anywhere else. I love exclusives because they definitely make you want to buy that, system. You need exclusives on your console. But even if I was the biggest Sonic fan, I don't know if I'd want to pay $600 right off the bat, especially when you have a PS5, you have Xbox looking at what it's doing in the future, and the Switch is still pretty strong, and I just feel like I spent so much money on that. I don't know, guys. It's rough. It's really rough. I hope that a Google console with Sega in there would do well. I feel like the game controller would be good enough, at least as like to dip your toes into it, and I hope that... I don't know. I mean, if they're really good at this and they have something that's that good and it comes out in 2020 before the PS5 does, but it's good. All right, it's good to get a head start, but I'm also a little bit nervous that perhaps something might be rushed. And if it's rushed just because, oh, let's try to get it out before the competition, then that would also be a problem as well. So I don't know. We don't know what they're going to announce. We don't know anything about that. I would say that, though, if they are going to announce something, I would hope that they take their time with it. They don't worry about the competition. They just do what they need to do. And if it comes out before the PS5 and whatever the newest Xbox console is, all right. If it comes out a year or two after that, so be it, right? If this console comes out in 2022, I think that would be just fine, giving them time to actually create something. Now, it might be a bigger problem for Sega because they haven't released a Sonic game. Well, I wouldn't say they haven't released one in a while, but it definitely seems like they'd want something new. And they have Judgment coming out, which looks like a great game. I kind of want Judgment, but I know I can't afford it. And they have Team Sonic Racing coming out soon. But yeah, they don't have any mainline Sonic games, so I don't know if they'd wait till 2022 for another mainline Sonic game. So I'm a little nervous. That's all. I'm a little nervous because I think competition is great, but I'm worried about this being rushed, and I'm worried about this not performing as well, and then it looking like a blight on Sega when really it's a blight on Google. So, and also potentially having those Sonic games being locked onto a Google console. So I want to hear what you guys have to say down below. Are you extremely interested in this? Are you not extremely interested in this? Did Sega's involvement, potential involvement, really interest you? Do you believe Spawn Wave? Do you not believe Spawn Wave? I mean, we'll know on the 18th, but at the same time, we might not, because they might not announce all of it, or frankly any of it, but it still might be coming out. So, yeah, it's a lot to really unpack here. So tell me what you guys think down below.